Let's talk a little bit about strategy here when it comes to both the Tories and the NDP in this confidence vote stuff. I guess, to what degree do you think Jagmeet Singh's argument is landing about why he's not supporting votes that today, for example, the motion used his own criticism in the wording of the Liberal government?
Yeah, I mean, while Pierre Poilievre was quoting Jagmeet, he forgot the part where he called Poilievre a billionaire bootlicker. So there wasn't the whole quote there. I do think that, I understand what Poilievre's trying to do, but at the same time, we need to move forward and actually try to get some things done for folks, right? I mean, the GST holiday, imperfect though it may be, is just starting shortly. The checks that the government's promised, again, not an ideal strategy, but if it's all they're going to do, then those don't come till later, and people need that money, and also our economy needs that money, and so. We've still got pharmacare rolling out and trying to get to the end of that. So that's why what you see is Jagmeet trying to say, look, we're gonna bring this government down at some point, but while we're trying to get stuff out the door to deliver for people, that's what our priority is, and we're not just going to hand Pierre Poilievre the election that he wants on his own timing.
Wait, back up. When has Jagmeet Singh ever said we're going to take down this government at some point? Just to clarify, I think maybe the insinuation is there that come election time, they hope, but I don't think he said that.
I think you'll see at some point.
Okay. Well, breaking news here tonight. I'll take it. Yeah, Laura, the argument, I get the argument as George frames it, and I think Mr. Singh has talked about that all. Essentially, it's we're not going to do this politics stuff if it means not advancing things that we think will help Canadians, right? Maybe they're not the perfect solution, but they're a solution we can support in the interim. Do you think that argument is harder to land when you look at the fact that Parliament has done nothing from a legislative perspective over the last few months? He's saying we've got to do more of this, but this was nothing for the past few months.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is all the parties are acting in their own self-interest. Breaking news. They're doing what's best for them, right? And I think the NDP has been in a bit of a pickle since they pulled out of the supply and confidence agreement with the Liberal government, which wasn't kind of automatically supporting the Liberal government. They said they would do that on a case-by-case basis. But now they've got to be kind of a hardliners or more of an opposition to the Trudeau government while at the same time still supporting them on certain things. So they've had to walk a bit more of a fine line since they did that a few months ago. So I think it has been challenging for the NDP to kind of get that message across that they are the opposition to the government, but they also want to support some things the government's doing. And I think we even heard from Mr. Singh today, I thought it was a bit startling when he was talking to reporters and someone asked how he wanted the benefit checks to change. And he said, look, that's up to the government. They're the ones in power. We just need to see it change. So I think it is a pickle for him. But to George's point, he's not just going to hand Pierre Poilievre an election on a silver platter. If he is going to pull his support on a confidence motion, he will do that when the NDP is ready to go. So, it's silly season. We're looking to wrap up the House as the year comes to an end. These parties need to get their message across. But right now, I think it is harder for the NDP to present, to be that voice of opposition while still propping up the government, essentially.
Okay, speaking of getting messages across, 1 week from today, as I said, everybody get ready. I'm very excited because the fall economic statement, Dan, is coming. Is it an important political document for the government, in your view?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be an important moment for them to define their response strategy to the latest round of trade negotiations that Donald Trump opened a few weeks ago. I think we're seeing some behind-the-scenes movement to reshape the narrative coming out of that document. Today, some leaks about significant expenditures in border security that are an obvious response to comments from President-elect Trump. So I think it will be an important moment for the government to respond to that environment. Certainly there's macroeconomic considerations that they're going to want to respond to in terms of the Canadian economy and the health of the economy coast to coast, but particularly in provinces like Ontario, where the Liberals obviously hold a great number of seats and where the economy seems to be lagging in a way that it isn't in every part of the country. So I think they'll be looking to demonstrate their activity and economic investment, and certainly I think Canadian pension funds have been following very closely the work of the government as it relates to those funds investing domestically in Canada, and we'll probably see some highlight on that. I also think the government will have an opportunity to speak politically to consumers, to voters. The budget in the spring, I think, tried to do a lot. One of the really noticed chapters in the budget was a pretty extensive policy program around consumer fees, around consumer costs, and things the federal government could do, both in federally regulated industries, but also in other things that consumers are irritated by or care about. And it didn't really get a lot of attention. And so I suspect that the minister is likely going to want to highlight progress on some of those initiatives and really try and gain some news and attention on things that probably the government didn't get enough traction out of the budget last spring.
So if that's, Shakir, what the government hopes to do politically with the document, what do you think the criticism from the Conservatives is going to be largely based on, and how much resonance do you think it will have? And I asked, we played that clip from Pierre Poilievre. I think the clear thing they're going at is the fiscal anchors. It sounds like from comments from the finance minister so far, they will meet one of them around debt to GDP, but the $40 billion deficit figure she won't give specific answers to when she gets questions, at this point at least, about whether or not they'll meet that one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if they meet those targets. I think Pierre has kind of laid out what he wanted. No new taxes, obviously, axing the carbon tax, bringing down inflation. I mean, we know those kind of standard lines, but I think for the Liberals, they're just in a very tough position because I've never seen a time, at least since they've been in power, where they put out a fall economic statement so late. And I feel like there is, despite what Dan is saying, I think there's a view where they don't want this to gain much traction, right? Because I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of good news in it. I think there's going to be a lot of good things for the Conservatives to kind of attack on beyond the fiscal anchors. I mean, you're talking about a Liberal government that has to prepare for whatever comes from Trump's tariff threat. There's probably going to be a recession associated with that. How do you communicate that to Canadians, right? If they blow past their fiscal anchors, how do you communicate that to Canadians when you're the ones who set those own anchors on your own terms, and now you can't maintain those metrics? So whatever they put forth, if they're slipping on any of those metrics they put forth, I think Pierre, the Conservatives, is going to have a field day kind of communicating these things. But I would say bringing it out on December 16th, there are probably very few Canadians who are paying any attention to politics right now, more worried about the holiday season. And I think the Liberals want it that way.
Shakir, I take personal offense to that. I'm making sure you're here next week.
They're watching your show.
All of
They're
us are going to be
your
here. Yeah, come on. We're all going to be very tuned in on December 16th.